Canada actually ranks relatively poorly in the command and control regulations. And what I mean by that, Madam Speaker, is that we set out a legislative process whereby an applicant has to follow every single step in a process that we determine necessary to get regulatory approval, versus an approach where we, whether through government agencies or the civil servants, identify what the outcome we need to be able to determine an approval. So as opposed to being able to say, I've heard this analogy before, Madam Speaker, I'll use it for you. Maybe you have a good bakery in your riding. You don't walk into that bakery, Madam Speaker, and say, this is the exact recipe, and give it to the baker and say, bake this cake. You trust the baker, and you say, well, I want a cake that is round and delicious. And is it chocolate or white that's your favorite cake, Madam Speaker? Chocolate, I heard. Chocolate. Well, you would want to go in and you want to describe that cake. You wouldn't go in with a pre-described notion of, say, bake this cake. You'd say you would describe the cake that you want to meet your satisfaction, and then you would allow the baker to go illustrate to you how they made that good cake, and you hopefully would have their approval. We need to be able to do that moving forward. Yes, and she might have high standards of what her cake is, but she needs to describe it. So there's the difference between command and control. You're not saying, here's the recipe, go bake this cake. You're saying, describing what type of cake you want, and then letting the baker be creative in delivering that cake to you. That is the best example. I look forward to the Hansard record of us talking about baked cakes and people saying, well, how the heck is this important to Canadians? It matters, Madam Speaker. It matters, and we need to be able to be a little bit more free in how we regulate. We've seen instances, including in my own backyard recently around this, about regulatory approvals, and I want to make sure it's very clear on the record that I think that this is somewhere where we have to go in the days ahead.